Here I am, out in the woods again, naked and afraid. No, I'm not afraid. No, I'm not naked, although my feet are. They're bare. No shoes on, once again. Um, in this video, I would like to just talk a little bit about, or rather ask a question of you. What is the purpose of your life? Do you have a purpose or purposes? Some people, their purpose is to be criminals, to be assholes, to be tyrants, to be ornery, to be contradictory, to just be troublemakers, to be trolls on the internet because they have nothing else to do with their life. So it makes them feel like somebody. And of course, you have the people that are narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic, and just, mentally off, period, and full of bitterness and hate and anger and things like that. And those people, like the criminals and tyrants and things like that, they all serve a purpose. So does, any sort of evil, darkness, pain, misery, illness, things like that. They all serve a purpose. They help you to grow. But do you want to be a person that's putting out negative vibes, negative things, saying things that are very negative and hateful to people that are trying to do the best they can in life? You just are very critical, and then you say, well, I'm just being sarcastic, or it's just constructive criticism. And in reality, it's not constructive criticism at all. It's just passive aggressiveness. People act out in negative manners, whether it's on the internet or in person. It could be your boss, it could be a fellow employee, it could be a family member, a spouse, a neighbor, whatever. People that act out in negative ways towards other people, and passive aggressiveness and things like that, if they don't have some sort of psychopathy going on, some sort of mental illness going on with them, and just born defected or became defected early on in life, they're irreparable, there's no way of fixing them. But the people that are just, caustic and toxic and miserable and want to make everybody else miserable because misery likes company, a lot of those people, it's because they're hurt. It's because they feel unfulfilled in life and frustrated. Today on the internet, for sure, more than ever, I guess, you see how people are very hostile towards one another, and people are attacking each other. You've got people that believe that the earth is a flat plane, and some of them, that's just a genuine belief for them, and they have that, and they have their reasons for believing that, and that's fine. But a lot of them are very, very toxic and caustic and hateful. There'll be videos that have nothing to do with the shape of the earth, and somebody will say, yeah, but that person has a globe in the background or something like that, and so, it's a globe tard, and they just throw out everything else. And we're all piecing things together. There's people out there that are learning the truth about germ theory, terrain theory, and things like that, and they're learning what really is and what really isn't, and what really has never actually been seen by man or doesn't even really truly exist. But there are doctors that are awakening to what's going on to certain things, but they still believe in the whole germ theory thing, or believe in viruses and things like that. People come to truths in stages, and it's not necessarily always very consistent, like they come to a new truth every 12 months, every year. Sometimes they may come to a good truth, and then it's another 10 years or whatever, and then they learn something else. But I think that the best way to get your point across is to be kind and to be patient, and to put the seeds out there, whatever it is that you believe in and that you have a strong belief in. The main thing is you have to look at life in a way that everything is always going to work out. Everything's going to be okay. And if you go through life with an angst like, I just got to shove this truth down people's throats, they got to believe this, or they're stupid if they don't believe this and that and the other. And yes, it's absolutely frustrating, some things that people believe when there's plenty of evidence to prove that what they believe is stupid. And I can understand that frustration. But at the same time, what it comes down to is how you treat people. Back when I was in the white supremacy, white racialist, and Christian identity activism circles, and in my past life, I have since reincarnated. I've been reborn 3 years ago. I got born again, and not in the theological religious sense. I got away from all that. I considered myself a white Christian. I was a Christian identist and a very fanatical, strong believer in it. And I had my reasons for believing it. And not that everything about it is wrong as far as some of the history and archaeology, I still believe is. There's definitely a European tie to the ancient Hebrew people, but that's for someone else to discuss with you. I've talked about that and wrote about that and spoke about that and was an activist about that for many years. But even then, I didn't feel like I needed to shove it down people's throats or anything like that. But there are people that say, well, if you don't have these beliefs or learn that, a certain people with interesting nose shapes, and only about 5 or 10% of them actually have the stereotypical nose, but well, they all control everything. Well, that's kind of like, saying that all Freemasons are, part of some sort of, conspiracy, or all bankers are, all corporate heads are, or things like that. That's not the way it works. Every human being is their own, the expression of the universe, and everyone is acting out a certain part in this play. As Shakespeare, you've heard it. Shakespeare said all the world is a stage, and that's basically true. We're all playing out parts, but we have free will. We can choose what part we want to play, and we can change that at any time. You can change your mind and change your path. I've done that more than once in my life. And the biggest one was about 3 years ago, over 3 years ago now, that I finally just threw aside all theology and some of the other beliefs that I had and said, I'm not worried about that anymore. I still believe in nature. I still believe in biology, still believe in genetics and things like that. But I no longer, and I still believe the Bible is a wonderful spiritual teaching tool. It has some historical truths here and there to it. And there's definitely some good moral teachings, but there's a lot of fucked up shit in the Bible too. And I've been reading it since I was 13 years old. So, and really reading it regularly for the most part. And, so studying and things like that. But there's other teachings, other Hindu teachings and things like that have, truths, moral truths, and some spiritual, metaphysical truths and things like that in it. But in the end, I don't want to live with a cause anymore. I used to think I had to fight for Yahweh, for Jehovah, for Jesus, for Yeshua, for God. I used to think that I had to stand up for the truth and things like that. And I still believe that we have to follow our truth and what resonates with us. But at the same time, I no longer believe in a cause. I'm not worried if other people don't believe as I do. The only thing is my main thing, hopefully it's a theme that you've caught in my videos if you watched any of my past videos, is I'm big about letting people be. But at the same time, they need to let people be. In other words, you don't harm other people or their things. Other than that, you should be free to believe and live as you wish. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff anymore. All I really care about is just natural law, not theological law, not biblical law. Whereas the Bible, prohibits homosexuality and things like that. I no longer see it as a problem. Or race mixing, which was something I was very opposed to, of course. Obviously, if you just heard what I said, my background was. Now I don't see those things as a problem. My main thing is it has to be consenting to adults with your sexual intercourse and with your social intercourse. It has to be consenting adults. When we interact with one another, we have to be, and that's why I like the term voluntarism. Voluntarism is you voluntarily, you choose who you want to do business with and who you want to interact with and who you would like to segregate from or who you would like to congregate with. I believe we should allow people to have their beliefs and their freedom because that's the best route for man to go. The whole concept of theology and state theism, it's theology. Politics is a theology. It's a belief. It's definitely a blind faith, isn't it? Who's your political gods that you believe in, the political angels you believe is going to save you or save us? All of that, that wanting to force it, everything will be better if we just had this politician in or this government system or this laws or all this type of stuff. And in the end, when you're sitting alone in your home or wherever and you're relaxing and you're alone with your own thoughts, do you ever just take a deep breath and say, what do I want to do with my life? If I knew I was going to die tomorrow or I was going to die next year or 10 years from now, and I knew for a fact, what would I like to know that I've actually done with my life that was positive, that would help with the collective positive, as an individual, the collective positive, loving, constructive, expanding in a positive way type of movement of all of mankind, of all the different races and both genders and things like that. What what can I do to do my part? And if anything, be nice. Just be fucking nice. As nice as you possibly can. Don't be a doormat, of course not. But be nice. Be as kind as you can. Focus on things that make you happy. They give you joy. They give you peace, love. All the stuff that's going on in the world out here, people have opinions and they have thoughts. I have opinions on certain things. Some things I don't, but some things I do, obviously. I make videos. Even though there's like maybe 1 or 2 people watch my videos, it doesn't matter. I do this because it's my way of expressing myself. And it's just one of the many things that I want to do with my life is I don't want to hide myself. I want to share myself and be out there for those that are, maybe I can inspire someone. I sure have been inspired by a lot of people that make videos. A lot of people have written books and giving lectures and their lifestyles and the way they do things have really inspired me. And I want to be a positive influence on people, and I want to live a good, positive, productive life. I'm 53 years old. I'm over half a century old. I don't think I'm going to live to be another, half a century, or another 53 years. I don't believe I'm going to live to be 100, 106. And it's not necessarily my goal. I would like to live a very, very long and healthy and happy and free and productive life that's productive for not only my own spiritual growth and character growth, but for everyone around me, those that I can touch in a positive manner. People don't like my videos, or they don't agree with some of the things, or all the things I say, or whatever it is. That's fine. That's cool. I appreciate that. But listen, free speech is useless if it's just for speech that everyone agrees with. Freedom is useless, and liberty is useless. Individuality is useless if people all have to follow one way of thinking or one way. The only thing that we do need to have universal across this globe, sorry, that's what I could believe in, and if you don't, fine, whatever. But all across the planet, the earth, this rock in space, whatever, this plane of existence, however you want to look at it, flat plane or just the matrix consciousness plane, however you want to look at it. How do you know that the earth isn't both a globe and flat? A plane. How do you not know that? So, but anyhow, one thing that we do have to agree on, not the shape of the earth or whose God is right or wrong or beliefs or whatever, is we have to agree with one another's freedom to believe things as they wish, speak them as long as they're not running in other people's houses and being rude, but share their truth as they wish and live their truth as long as it's not harming another person or another person's belongings, right? Or harming the community as a whole. Like, you wouldn't want to put motor oil down this beautiful creek right here, right? Well, it's the same thing. But if you have your old motor oil, by the way, I had somebody just give me another gallon of used motor oil, which, by the way, if you don't know, is a great way to waterproof, to preserve, and stain wood, like on decks of trailers. Like my trailer, I have wood trailer, put it on there. A little side note. Wonderful way to repurpose or recycle used motor oil, by the way. Cost you nothing. It's a cheap roller or whatever, and from a dollar store or something like that, and a cheap pan or something, and roll it on. But anyhow, I don't mean to digress. But finding ways that you can be productive in this life, and if there's people you don't agree with, you don't like because of their race, you don't like because of their religion or their beliefs, that's fine. I believe in everyone. I still absolutely, I was never a white nationalist. I wasn't all political because I was a nationalist anarchist, if you will. I believed in the Bible. I was a Christian anarchist, but I also believed in, racial separatism and things like that. But I didn't believe in a statist system. So I was, for that matter. And I still believe people have the right to associate with who they wish or not associate who they wish. Integrate with who they want to, separate who they want, or segregate from who they want to. I believe in true, pure freedom. But the white nationalists and those sorts of people like that, I understand where they're coming from. I understand where black nationalists are coming from. I understand where people come from, the Republicans, the Democrats, the communists, the capitalists. I understand where you're coming from. And it's not about what you think is the best way for mankind to live or society or whatever. But when you want to force other people to live according to your ideology or your theology or anything like that, that's where it's wrong. Even when I was a racial activist, I didn't believe in pushing. I didn't want government to push the beliefs that I had of Christian identity and white racial separatism and things like that. I believe it still should be free will because I've been all my adult life, since my late teens, I've always been a non-statist anarchist, and Began to hone that through reading and studying people like Lysander Spooner, Josiah Warren, others like that, a little bit of Bakunin, and just looking into the different ideas of individual liberty and anarchism, non-statism. But what I want to do with my life is I want to enjoy my life. There's things that I want to do, my personal goals and things that I want to do with my own life. But at the same time, I want to be a positive influence in this world the best I can be, not fighting for a cause or anything like that. I just want to be a positive light in this world. And even if you don't agree with me, I want you to understand I'm not a threat to you, and I don't want nobody to be a threat to you. But I don't want you, or whatever it is you believe, to be a threat to me and impose. Let's share our ideas. We can agree to disagree, or we can teach one another, whatever it is. But at the same time, what really matters, because I had people that in the Christian identity circles, in the racial circles, that we agreed on those topics, but everything else couldn't stand each other. Those type of things. And it come down to, I'd let all that go. What I really care about, I don't care if you don't believe in metaphysics, I don't care if you don't believe some of the things that I believe about things. What I really care about is how you treat me. In the end, how we treat each other. In the grocery store, don't even know each other, but are we respectful? Are we respectful for coworkers or for neighbors or for relatives or whatever it is? Do we treat each other with respect and love? I can strongly disagree with you and have some opinions about you, some of the things you do or believe, but at the same time, I want to treat you with love and respect, and I understand you have the reasons for what you believe and for what you do. And that's what's going to push us forward. But listen, the media, the education system, academia, all of that, from kindergarten all up to your universities, the media, all this type of stuff, they seek to divide us. Even some of the alternative media. See, it's about dividing people. We need to stop being divided and say, listen, we can be divided and disagree about a lot of things. That's not a problem. But what really matters is how we treat each other. I don't want us all to have the same beliefs and same lifestyles and things like that. What I want is for us to have respect for our differences and love one another. And we can argue passionately, but not insult each other. The main thing is, no matter what you believe, you should not believe in having a government system and bully boys like police or military or whatever, forcing your beliefs and what you want on other people. Live and let live. That, to me, is the most natural way a man should live. I keep saying it in my videos. I believe man was created to be wild and be free. And part of freedom is loving others and not wanting to impose on their freedom. You can't have freedom if you're not willing to give it to other people. You want free speech, allow other people to have speech. It doesn't mean go in their house or troll under their videos or on their social network page. You don't have to do that kind of stuff, or send them hateful emails and that kind of crap. But just say, it doesn't matter. When you know that you love people, when you know you believe in freedom, when you know you believe in free speech, free thought, freedom of consciousness, when you know you believe that is when you can see things that you don't like, that you're offended by. There are a lot of so-called right-wing, so-called conservative types. They want to cancel people. They want to cancel people and let people speak and let people do as they wish, as long as they're not harming another person. They want to cancel people because they have opinions or beliefs. Hey, I've heard a lot of opinions and beliefs by famous people and just regular people on the internet or in my personal life that I strongly disagree with. But God damn it, I want to make sure that I love them and I understand that in the end, we're all truly just one. We're all united with consciousness, just like the nature and the molecules, the atoms in this trees and stuff like that. We're all one. That's what I believe. And no matter what, even if you don't believe that, whatever, as long as you believe in my freedom to believe that and live as I wish, as long as I'm not harming other people or their things, that's the only thing we humans can agree on, is to respect one another's freedom, to believe in, and to seek out the meaning of life, and whether it's, religion, philosophy, or whatever it is, and to live their lives, who they want to marry, who they want to have sex with, as long as it's consensual sex to adults. Whatever they want to do, we need to allow that to be, because when freedom is no good if you don't give it to you don't recognize it, I should say, in other people and in their lives, because freedom just is. Freedom is not something that government gives you. It's not even something government can take from you, because freedom is just the way man is the whole spirit of the universe is freedom. Freedom of conscience, freedom. Yeah, there may be people that physically stop you from or threaten you and keep you from stopping you from doing things. But in the end, we have to recognize one another's freedom. Have to recognize one another's right to express themselves and live their lives, as long as they're not harming other people, infringing on other people's freedom. You can't have freedom unless you're willing to recognize it in the most obnoxious belief systems that you have, that other people have, whatever it is. As long as those people aren't harming other people, let people have the crazy, weird beliefs they have, and just love them. You can disagree, you can argue, you can debate. That's fine, if it's consensual debating and discussion. But it can, mutual combat, mutual verbal combat. That's fine. But you can't have freedom unless you're willing to recognize that freedom is for everyone and not just the beliefs that you believe in. Free speech, all of that is freedom, is no good if it's only for speech that everyone likes. True freedom, that's when you know you love people, when you allow them to be free and be themselves, even if you don't like what those selves are. As long as they're not harming other people, whatever, man. Live wild and free.